The Department of Education supports the journalism programs and projects as stipulated in Republic Act No. 7079, which mandates the development and growth of campus journalism as a means of strengthening ethical values, encouraging critical and creative thinking, and developing moral character and personal discipline of the Filipino youth. The Special Program in Journalism and the National Schools Press Conference provide avenues to realize the principles reflected in the Campus Journalism Act of 1991. Integral in the journalism program is strengthening the advocacy of producing a news-literate society. This can be done by purposeful information dissemination through various modalities for news consumers not just to be aware of what's happening, but to influence decision on what needs to be done. In the current context, news reliance is customary among household members, and this requires the news consumers to detect the authenticity of information provided. Before we figure out what is in store for us today, let us intently listen to the messages of Assistant Secretary for Curriculum and Instruction, Alma Ruby C. Torrio, and Bureau of Curriculum Development Director, Jocelyn D.R. Andaya.
Good day to all of you, especially to our student televiewers. The current context makes all of us, especially the students, dependent on news, specifically in waiting for updates about education. Though news consumption is advisable, there is a need to check that the information we get is real or authentic. The proliferation of fake news has an adverse effect on the mindset, which leads to how we perceive people, things, or circumstances. Hence, vital to the current technological sphere is educating the viewing public, specifically the students, on how to spot fake news. Regarded as digital natives, students' news literacy includes the ability to differentiate what authentic news is from what is not. The Department of Education strongly believes that a progressive nation is composed of a well-informed citizenry. Thus, educated news consumers help in making informed decisions. This is to say that reliance on credible news sources is highly encouraged. Today, we are with you as you learn profoundly about checking news sources and verifying details of the news shared in various platforms. I commend the Bureau of Curriculum Development through its journalism programs and projects, which help shape young journalists to be purveyors of truth and disseminators of accurate and credible information. Let me take this opportunity to thank our education stakeholders for continuously supporting our journalism-related endeavors. Our gratitude to the resource persons whose passion is to share their knowledge for the viewers to be enlightened on matters concerning news literacy. Have a fun-filled learning session and mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Good day, our dear televiewers. Just like all of you, I believe that being informed is empowering, but getting the right information is liberating. It is timely that education stakeholders tune in to watch educational programs that ensure continuous learning on the part of our students. At a time when dependency on multimedia instruction is fast becoming the norm, we also need to be educated on the principles of journalism as consumers of news. The truth is, it is beneficial to check the authenticity of the news prior to sharing it with others. Thus, accounting for credible news sources must be an integral part of our routine. We are accustomed to checking news items on broadsheets, on radio, and on television. We even do online checking of news items. And since journalism influences both the producers and consumers of news, fact-checking and source vetting become imperative. This proves that journalism is indeed a collaborative enterprise. This day initializes the initiative of the Department of Education to impart invaluable knowledge to the televiewers on the key concepts and principles of purposeful and responsible journalism. The Bureau of Curriculum Development supports the journalism-related undertakings by spearheading programs and projects for student journalists to live by the tenets of their target profession, thereby contributing to national transformation. With today's segment, I am certain that the viewers, especially the students and parents of various households, will be more introspective in checking for news content and sources. We hope that as you watch, you also list down the significant information shared by all our resource persons. Let us remember that making use of correct information specifically during these times is not only knowledge gaining, but also life-saving. Always remember that at the end of the day, we all deserve the truth. Have a productive day, everyone, and peace and all good to all of you.
Have you been victimized by fake news? Was there a time when you believed in something just to discover later on that it was not true? Today, we invite you to join us not just to determine ways and how to spot fake news, but to gain deeper understanding of what fake news really is and be knowledgeable about the danger that such news brings. With us are two journalism advocates whose expertise is in line with the topic we wish to share with you today. They will guide us in understanding what fake news is and help us in spotting fake news.
The internet, particularly social media, has become a part of life, especially for Filipinos in the urban areas. The number of Filipinos who use the internet versus the total population, or what they call the internet penetration rate, has increased significantly since the early 2000s. As of 2019, about 79 million Filipinos out of 110 million use the internet. That means an internet penetration rate of about 72%, a staggering increase of more than 3,300% from the figures of 2000. Now, it's not surprising that the internet penetration rate in the country is rapidly increasing, as more and more Filipinos use the internet for a wide array of life transactions, from education to banking to shopping to navigation, among others. The Philippines is also ranked 12 worldwide in terms of the number of internet users as of the first quarter of 2020. And it ranks higher than many developed or bigger countries, which is quite ironic, especially given the fact that it has one of the slowest average internet speeds in the world. Furthermore, for 4 consecutive years, our country has been at the top spot globally in terms of the amount of time that Filipinos spend on social media. Filipinos spend an average of 3 hours and 53 minutes, about 4 hours, on social media every day, way above the time spent by people from more developed countries or bigger countries. Hence the label social media capital of the world.
What is fake news?
Now, one of the biggest setbacks with the rise of the internet or the internet coming of age is the proliferation or the spread of fake news online. Of course, the term fake news is in a way already self-explanatory. It is obviously false information, created or circulated on purpose or not on purpose, to deceive readers, shift public opinion, or even afflict harm to a person or group. Some scholars differentiate between fake news and false information. Fake news is said to be narrower in scope as it refers only to political affairs stories, while false information is broader because it goes beyond current political affairs or it goes beyond news. In other words, false information is disinformation across a broader range of topics, not just politics, and also a broader range of genres, not just news. Fake news can be online misinformation or false information that is spread without political agenda or motive and is usually just unintended distortion of content or information. Or it can be online disinformation, which refers to false information that is systematically spread by groups or individuals with political intent or profit motive. According to several studies, there really are paid networks of disinformation that employ troll farms and spread fake news in the Philippine online sphere. The motive is usually to shift public opinion in favor of someone or a group or an idea. Fake news can be quotes attributed to the person or the group who did not say these things at all. And we have a lot of these online and especially on Facebook. As you can see, here are the examples. Or it can be news of events that did not really happen or were told in an exaggerated manner. Or it could be what people call clickbait headlines or clickbait webpage titles, which are written using language of sensationalism. So here are some of the examples. But they do not really represent the content accurately, if there is even an accurate story to begin with. Rarely, false information can be an actual story from a legitimate media firm that was written based on only one or very few sources or based on unreliable sources, and the writer or the reporter failed to verify the information prior to publication. However, journalists, especially at this time, are very keen on verifying information and providing proof for their stories. For example, accompanying photos of the event are also published to play their role as beacon of reliability, so to speak, or to avoid being tagged as peddlers of fake news, especially at this time when journalism is burdened by the task to distinguish itself, to establish a brand of being a source of reliable information. In my study on Philippine news practices in the time of the internet, most journalists in the sample reported that their newsrooms modified existing practices or added new practices in response to the rise of disinformation or systematic disinformation, and the rise of agents that try to delegitimize or even demonize journalism. An example of these practices is more stringent fact-checking and more ways to engage the audience, get their attention amid the many other alternative sources of content.
What are the statistics on fake news?
In a 2018 Pulse Asia survey, majority of the Filipinos in the sample changed their views about politics and government because of something they had read, seen, or listened to over the internet. Now, this further shows the heavy influence of the internet over how Filipinos perceive the world or their society. And this underscores the importance of being able to evaluate online information and spot fake news. Education or internet literacy or media literacy plays a crucial role because social media networks can only do so much. They can reduce the incidence of fake news, but not totally weed out fake news from their sites. What is encouraging, though, is the fact that Filipinos are more likely to be aware of the existence of fake news. In another Pulse Asia survey in 2018, 88% of Filipinos in the sample said that they are aware of fake news circulating in social media. Therefore, it appears that there is a high concern over the proliferation of fake news, and that's a good start.
How does fake news affect the society?
Fake news or online mis- and disinformation can severely impact society in many ways. In this time of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, for example, false information about virus transmission, vaccine discovery, and other distortions of scientific information can be a matter of life or death. False information about ways of preventing COVID-19 transmission, for example, that do not have any scientific basis whatsoever, were circulated on Facebook about a month ago. And the problem is that a lot of people already shared that content, which could pose health risks to people who believe it. Fake news about a vaccine being discovered or mass-produced can also give false hope to people. Fake news about a product can lead to financial losses to business enterprises, while fake news about individuals can damage their reputation and harm their emotional well-being, even in the years to come. Fake news can even be detrimental to a democracy such as ours, because it can sabotage political discussions online.
What laws or policies can be violated by people or parties that spread fake news?
Because fake news is a relatively new concept, laws that criminally penalize the peddling of fake news have yet to be passed. The Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012 punishes cyber libel, or the publication of malicious online content, real or imaginary, that could harm the reputation of a person. In this unique time of the pandemic crisis, the government also passed the Bayanihan Hilas 1 Act, which, during its effectivity, penalized the peddling of fake news. Social media networks have also taken some steps in trying to address the fake news problem. Facebook, for example, hired independent content verifiers. Repeated sharing of fake news can also get your account disabled. However, at the end of the day, effective education on spotting fake news or evaluating online information is still the best weapon against fake news.
In recent years, we've increasingly seen or heard the use of the term fake news. But fake news is not something new. However, the way it is being passed around has changed along with the technologies available to humans. From spoken word to printed materials and now to social media, bogus stories can reach more people more quickly than ever before. But we should not be afraid of fake news. By developing the right skills, we can tell the truth from false information. I'm Kuya Jansen, and here are a few tips in identifying fake news. Number 1. Check the source. Check the About page of the source for information on the owner of the web page. Make sure that the content you see on the site meets the standards of quality journalism. Inspect the site's URL, because a lot of fake sites create a URL that is similar to the URL of a legitimate news site, and this may go unnoticed by an untrained eye. Number 2. Read beyond the headline. Some headlines may sound exaggerated or provocative, and this must be a sign for you to read a little more before sharing the information. Even in legitimate news sites, the headline doesn't always tell the whole story. Number 3. Check the author. The article author's name can be seen on the byline, which is usually found below the title. Look up the author and see the other things they've written. Sometimes, the author is not even real. If there is no author, you may not want to trust it. Number 4. Check supporting sources. Check the source of the information or data presented in the article. One of the ways that fake news spread is when people keep repeating or sharing the same information but no one has verified it. Determine if the information actually supports the story. There are instances where the institution or the quote found in the article is not real. Number 5. Check the date. Legitimate information, when shared without its proper context or reposted to make it appear as relevant to the current event, may be considered as fake news if it ends up deceiving the public. Number 6. Is it a joke? Learn the difference between news and satire. Most satires are funny, ironic, and exaggerated, as they are meant to entertain and criticize. Normally, it is labeled as such, but remember that this is not news. It is creative work. Number 7. Check your biases. In psychology, confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, or favor information that confirms or supports one's beliefs or values, while discounting information that doesn't. You might want to double-check that your own beliefs or emotions aren't clouding your judgment. Number 8. Ask the experts. Ask from experts or cross-check with fact-checking organizations or websites to know whether the news is verified and accurate. Seek advice from official sources such as government websites. Lastly, use your common sense. While news sources have the duty to report facts objectively and without bias, we readers remain to be the first line of defense against fake news. It is our job to verify the information that we are reading. Always check and think critically.
That has been a great learning experience. I am sure that by now, the following questions have been answered. What is fake news? Are there data available on fake news dependency? How does fake news affect the society? What laws or policies can be violated by people or parties that spread fake news? What words are associated with fake news? How do we spot fake news? Today, we have also learned how to spot fake news. So next time we refer to the news, we can do the following. Check the source, read beyond the headline, check the author, check supporting sources, check the date, check your biases, ask the experts. That's all that we have for today. Let us remember that information we get from credible sources is always enlightening and at this point in time, life-saving. Happy day, everyone!